As some of you know, there's a political talk radio show that's called Kitchen Politics 123 that I occasionally co-host. And there's something that I've talked about on there a lot, which is this plan that I have for 2024 called the 20-state strategy. And it doesn't just apply to the presidential election. This is also for the senatorial races, the congressional races, and even the state races like the state Senate, state House, the county spots, all that, the top Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, and even for some cases, I would say the governor's races. But that one is a little bit more complicated, but we'll get to that later on or in another video. So back in March of 2023, here's what I posted. And before I list to you exactly what the 20 states are, here's the post that I made. I said, Democrats, we need to take it up a notch. Here are 13 key states. Initially, it was a 13-state plan, and then I changed it to 15 later on. So here's what it says. We need to take it up a notch. Here are 13 key states that we need to focus on, and there's the 13 states. We need to go to these states, whether it be in person or virtually, and talk to voters. Talk to independent and undecided voters. Register more people to vote. Increase voter turnout. I can't do this one alone, people. Let's get to it. A number of people agree with that. Of course, they're all Democrats, which really goes without saying. A few months later, in September, I said, okay, Democrats, new plan. Let's look at these 15 states. And I listed the 15 states. And I said, these states right here have the highest block of independent, undecided, and swing voters. Now, we already know that the Democrats will pretty much automatically win states like New York, California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, just like the Republicans usually automatically win places like Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama. If we can really strategize, organize, mobilize, energize, and realize, and we manage to win those 15 additional states, we'll be safe and solid with both the popular vote and the electoral college. That was obviously referring to the presidential election. We need to go to these states, whether it be in person or virtually. This is what we need to do. Talk to the voters. Inform them about the Biden-Harris accomplishments. If some of them feel that those accomplishments are insufficient, then that's when we ask them, what is it that you want in order for us to gain your vote? Ask them, what do you want to see done? Then we put our foot on the gas pedal and pressure the Biden-Harris administration and other top Democratic officials to pursue said stated policies, ideas, and aspirations. This is my proposed 15-state strategy. Now, recently I've decided, you know what? Let me go even crazier. Let me turn it up to an even greater notch. Now let's do 20 states. Now I know some people are thinking, well, why not just do 50-state strategy? Just do all 50 states. For as great as that might sound, and for as tempted as part of me was to do that, I said, let's be a little bit more realistic. There are some states that we're just not going to win. Democrats are not going to win over Mississippi anytime soon, or Arkansas. I'm pretty sure not Alabama, although we did briefly have a Democratic senator in Alabama, but that was only for one term, less than that, as a matter of fact. So now let me tell you the 20 states that I have in mind. And so far, most people that I've given this plan to tend to agree with me on this. Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Maine, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Iowa, and Missouri. Now, I know some of those states, people were like, okay, that makes sense. We can win those. And then other states they were looking at and saying, well, that's not possible. How are we going to do that? Let me break it down just a little bit. So we know that the battleground states, as we know, are the states that have been oftentimes won by Democrats, and then a lot of other times they were won by Republicans. Let me start off with my state, for example, the state of Michigan, which is where I'm from and where I currently reside. Michigan, so let me tell you this. We had a Republican governor from 1990 to 2002. We had a Democrat governor from 2002 to 2010. Republican governor from 2010 to 2018, and 2018 to present, Democrat governor. So that was John Engler, Jennifer Granholm, Rick Snyder, Gretchen Whitmer. Now also keep in mind this, that this part might sound crazy, but listen to this. In the state of Michigan, this is how Michigan voted in the presidential elections since Bill Clinton. Michigan voted for Bill Clinton twice. At the same time, they voted for Republican John Engler for their governor. 2000, I think most of Michigan voted for Gore in 2000. They voted for Gore in 2000 while they were still voting for Engler. 2002, they voted for Democrat Jennifer Granholm for the governor's race. 2004, I don't remember off top if most of Michigan voted for John Kerry or George Bush. I would like to believe maybe Kerry, but I mean, hey, Bush got reelected and it's, whatever. Fast forward 2008, most people in Michigan turn out for Obama. 2010, they turn out for Republican Governor Rick Snyder. You follow me so far? Hopefully you're still following me. 2012, Michigan votes for Obama again. 2014, they vote for Republican Snyder again. 2016, most of Michigan votes for Trump in the 2016 presidential race. And then 2018, they voted for Gretchen Whitmer, Democrat, for governor. And most of Michigan also went for Biden in 2020 in the presidential race. So what does this tell you right here? A lot of the people of Michigan, and I don't know how much of it is the same people, but Michigan tends to vote for one party for the presidency while voting for the other party on the state level, and then vice versa. Why is that? Because Michigan is a swing state. It's a battleground state. It's not all the way blue. It's not all the way red. It is a mixed state. That's what battleground state is. That's why when you watch the CNNs and the MSNBCs and all the top news shows, that's why they say, here are the key battleground states. Now, what other states are just like Michigan in that sense? We also have Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and you can kind of maybe say Florida. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of a history lesson here, the last Democratic presidential candidate to do really well in Florida was Bill Clinton. He easily won Florida twice. Now, of course, Bush got Florida twice. His brother was down there. We know how that all turned out. Obama just barely won Florida in 2008. For as popular as he was, he just barely won Florida by like 3 percentage points when he was up against McCain. 2012, Obama was up against Romney, and he barely eked it out by about half a percentage point down there because Romney was leading down there for a bit. He barely got that. 2016, Hillary versus Trump. Trump won Florida. 2020, Biden and Trump were tied in Florida for a bit, but then Trump barely edged out a victory, so he won that. So that's why I included Florida on the list, because it's basically telling me that if Democrats really, really pushed hard down there, they really talked to voters down there, they can really turn some heads and change some minds down there, we could win Florida, even if it's not by a landslide like Bill Clinton did when he was up against Bush Sr. and Bob Dole. Now, the other states that I have on there, when I talk about Georgia, now Georgia does lean more red, but we have 2 blue senators down there. We have Raphael Warnock, we have John Ossoff, but they still have a Republican governor, Brian Kemp. Now, Stacey Abrams had almost won the governorship twice. Ultimately, it didn't happen. This tells me right here that the demographics are slowly but surely changing in the state of Georgia. Now, I don't know if Stacey Abrams is going to run again or another Democrat's going to run next time. I don't know. I hope Stacey runs again. And if she doesn't go for that, I hope she goes for Congress or Senate or something. And then I also put Texas on here. Now, people are thinking like Texas, a hardcore conservative, southern, gun-loving state. Well, Beto O'Rourke had ran for the Senate down there in 2018 against Cruz, and he was almost tied with Cruz in the polls, and then, of course, he didn't make it, so Cruz got reelected. And then in 2020, I think that was, or no, I'm sorry, that was 22. In 22, Beto ran again, but he ran for the governor. He ran for the governor's spot, and he was up against Greg Abbott. They were tied for a bit, or almost tied for a bit, but Abbott still won. Demographics are slowly but surely changing out there. And I'm looking at these other states like Arizona, where we just elected Katie Hobbs, a Democrat, to be the governor down there. We also have Mark Kelly, Democratic senator. Kirsten Sinema, who was a Democrat at first, and I helped promote and support her in 2018 when she first got there. Of course, we saw what direction she went towards, and so she registered as an independent. 95 to 99% of the time she votes with Republicans, all that stuff. And now we have Ruben Gallego, who's running for Senate down there to replace her, and I'm easily supporting him. And the state of Missouri, it is more red, but I have plenty of Democratic friends and allies out that way, and maybe they can kind of help in that a bit. So that's why I just decided to go crazy and say, you know what, let me just throw in an extra 5 states. The state of Kentucky, why is that on there? That's the state that Mitch McConnell has been a senator since 1984. They just elected a Democratic governor over there in Kentucky. I think his name is Andy Beshear. They elected him in 2019, and he just got reelected last year. And I got to tell you, I was surprised. I was shocked that he won in 2019. I didn't think he was actually going to make it, but he did. Kentucky, red state, not going to be easy, but again, not impossible. North and South Carolina, Biden and Trump were tied for a bit in North Carolina. Trump ended up winning that, but it was close. So that tells me right there, if I'm looking at the presidential race and it's a close tie between the Democrat and the Republican candidate, no matter which one wins, I look at that state and I say the fact that it was even a tie tells me that we can do this. So, and then South Carolina, that's where Jamie Harrison ran for the Senate. I think he ran against Lindsey Graham, and they were tied. They were tied too. Lindsey Graham ended up winning that. I said, it's okay. It's a tie, which means it's not impossible. We can still do this. So that same rule that I'm using applies with, excuse me, all these other states here. Now, the one that I think is the least likely chance to happen is Alabama. But the only one reason I put that state on that list is because I remember the special election from 2017 with Doug Jones, Democrat, and Roy Moore, Republican. And for the longest time, Roy Moore was leading down there, and then Doug Jones just barely eked it out at the last minute. I don't know how he did that. That was a shock. Many of you remember me doing the live video where I was reacting to it in real time. And at the beginning of the video, I said, I can't believe the state of Alabama is going to do this. I'm just sorry about this. And I'm just incredibly shocked that Jones won. Now, of course, he lost his seat, and now he got, what's his name? Tuberville. Tommy Tuberville. I don't know if his name is pronounced Tuberville or Tuberville. I've heard them say Tuberville on the news, so let's just go with that for now. Tommy Tuberville ended up winning that spot. He's a Republican. Same thing with Nevada. Biden and Trump were almost tied in Nevada. Biden barely won that. Same thing with Arizona. Same with Georgia. So I'm looking at these states right here, and I'm telling top Democrats, and anybody who contributes to Democratic Party in any way. So whether you're an official, a candidate, an activist, an organizer, a journalist, anything, media, whether you do radio or podcast or YouTube, just whatever, whether you're a social media influencer and you're a Democrat, this message is to all of you. Really put that message out there. Let's go to these states, whether it be in person or, virtually. As of right now, I do virtually. Can't travel too much right now, but I want to get back into that soon. And I'm really calling upon all my Democratic friends on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Democratic subscribers on YouTube, really put this out here. And if you're with this plan, please share this video and like and subscribe and bring others to watch it and see what we can do here. Let them know why. And again, let's not be confrontational to people who are saying like, hey, I'm conflicted, or I think they're the same, or I don't really see what the Democrats are doing, or, look, it's not just about, so there's a few things about that. So you got the Biden-Harris achievements, and then also tell them about some of the achievements of the Democrats on state levels with other states. Look at Massachusetts. They did universal free lunch program for the kids, universal free school lunches. They gave a 4% millionaire's tax. And with that money, not only did they give them free lunches, they also fixed their roads out there. They did free community college for people between the ages of 21 and 26 or 27, I believe that was. The Democrats in Minnesota, they did universal free school meals, legal marijuana, tax rebates for the working class up to $1,300 if you make under $150K a year, 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave. They did $2.2 billion in K-12 school funding, sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers, automatic voter registration, universal background checks. They did things like that on that level. Tony Evers, the Democratic governor of Wisconsin, he signed a bill that would fund K-12 funding for the next 400 years. And as far as the Biden-Harris achievements, I've gone over that on the show many times, and I'll do it again. They passed the PACT Act, which was a bill that was It gave health care to veterans who were exposed to toxic burn pits. That bill was introduced by Democratic Congressman Mark Takano. It passed Nancy Pelosi's Congress. It passed Chuck Schumer's Senate. And it went to President Biden's desk. He signed it. That's there. The student debt reduction thing. Maybe not as sufficient as a lot of people would want it to be, but it still helped out at least 40 million Americans, where he canceled up to $20,000 per individual. It was $10,000 per individual, but $20,000 if you were eligible for the Pell Grant. And so that took the student debt, the U.S. student debt, from 1.8 trillion to 1.6 trillion. So that was 200 billion eliminated. He also eliminated medical debt for millions of Americans. He took the medical debt down from almost 200 billion down to 88 billion. $15 minimum wage for federal workers and contractors, pulled us out of Afghanistan, lowered the drone strikes, massively reduced the drone war by over 70%, cut the contracts that the Department of Justice had with the private prisons, put a pause on the U.S.-Saudi weapons deal. There was also one aside from the fact that they also stood by the UAW workers when they came to Michigan, while every Republican pretty much gave them the middle finger and said, no, buzz off, you don't deserve to do this and you don't deserve to get paid. There was a rule that was put in place that stated that the overtime eligibility threshold, which basically means that if you make this amount of money or under, you're eligible for overtime pay. Initially, it was $35,000 a year. The Biden administration just moved that to $55,000 a year. Now, me personally, I don't think there should be a cap on it. I think that it should, whatever the hours you work, that's what you get paid if you're an hourly worker. So there was that. Passed the American Rescue Plan Act, the COVID relief package. What did those things do? And the Inflation Reduction Act, by the way. What did all those things do together? It put $7 billion in the Paycheck Protection Program, expanded unemployment benefits, gave the child tax credit, expanded the child tax credit. Unfortunately, that wasn't permanent, but it did help out for the time being. Gave over $500 million to HBCUs to help students of color pay off their student debts. Capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month, which nearly every single Republican voted against. This is what they also re-enrolled over 16 million Americans back onto the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. This is what's been going on. And the problem with the Democrats is they're not the best messengers. Yes, they're a lot better than the other party on policy and ideas, but they need to get out there and brag about this stuff. There was a guy named Plies who was on Roland Martin's show. He said, y'all better get out here and brag. That's what they need to do. And we need to tell, if these voters are independent and undecided, you have to let them know those things. It might turn some heads. You're not going to get every single one. But if we do that, we at least try. The effort means everything. And at the end, if we still don't win, we can at least look at that and say, hey, we did our part. We tried. This is what we have to do. So if you're on board with this, share this video. And we'll be reaching out to big names and Democratic YouTubers and podcasters and Democratic staff, people who work closely with the Biden campaign or people who worked with the Hillary campaign or the Obama campaign. And I know people personally who worked with the Whitmer campaign. Obviously, she's here in Michigan, so I've met many of them. This is what we're going to do, people. This is what we are going to do. I'm going to reach out to Naira Hack, who's one of the campaign staff for the Biden and Harris. I'm going to reach out to Lee McGowan, who is a Democratic YouTuber, who is great at laying out the achievements and the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration. Really grateful for people like her. So this is what we're going to do, people. And if you liked it, like and subscribe and share the video because we have some work to do.